Thank you, Connor. Good morning. This is a convening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Today is the last day of July 2025. It's approximately 10:06 a.m. I'm running a little late this morning. It is the meeting number 560. I'm Jordan Maynard. I'm serving as chair. We're hosting this meeting virtually, so we will do a roll call. Good morning, Commissioner O'Brien. I know she's on, but I'll move on. Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning, Chair and everyone.
And good morning, Commissioner Broder.
Good morning.
All right, and again, I know that Commissioner O'Brien is here, and I'm sure she will confirm that when she's able to. I did speak with her, text with her this morning.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, Jordan. I couldn't get it unmuted in the situation I was in, but I'm here.
All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and go to item number 2, and that's the meeting minutes. And for that, we will turn it over to Secretary Broder. Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, I need 1 second because I have the wrong computer, so I need to get the, I just need to get the agenda up in front of me, which shouldn't take but a moment.
Oh, that's fine. I had a moment very similar when I was serving as secretary.
I made the mistake of not transitioning the appropriate materials to my iPad, which is what I'm on today. So.
We'll give you a second. No one's in a hurry.
What's that?
I said, no one's in a hurry. You got a second. I see Dr. Andrews and Director Vanderlinden. They're on here ready to do item number 3. Dr. Goldberg's here.
Boom. All right, we're getting close. Boom. All right, Mr. Chairman, I think we can dancing through a couple of different screens here. We should be able to get this done. Okay, so here it is. Mr. Chair, I move that the commission approve the minutes from the January 17th, 2023 meeting, the October 10th, 2024 meeting, the November 7th, 2024 meeting, and the February 24th, 2025 meeting. Wait, I'm not sure that is correct.
Yeah, the agenda has marked up.
Okay, strike that. That's some, I think that's some old language. Here we go. Mr. Chair, I withdraw that motion and move as follows. I move the commission approve the minutes from the January 20th, 2023 meeting, the July 1st, 2024 meeting, and the July 24th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Aye. Oh, it's that same, excuse me.
And I vote yes. 4 and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now I further move that the commission approve.
1 second. Councilor Hintoff is sorry to interrupt you, Commissioner, but
yep.
was someone absent for one of those meetings?
No, not that. I just wanted to note for Commissioner Broder that he did not include the language regarding non-material and typographical errors.
Oh gosh, thank you.
Just in case that anything like that were to come up in either of any of those stats, I did want to make sure that we did include that language.
So, Mr. I can move to reconsider to offer a new motion with that language.
Second.
There we go. All right. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Aye.
You abstain, correct?
No, I thought we were moving.
Oh,
I thought we were doing a motion reconsider.
Got it. And I vote yes, 5-0.
All right, and thank you. There's a little bit of drama with the minutes. This is kind of exciting. Let's see here. Screen this one up. So, Mr. Chair, I move that the commission approve the minutes from the January 20th, 2023 meeting, the July 1st, 2024 meeting, and the July 24th, 2024 meeting that are included in our packet, subject to any necessary corrections for typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
Commissioner Broder,
Aye.
and I vote yes, and I believe that was inclusive of the entire statement. Okay.
So now, Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve the minutes from the July 15th, 2025 meeting. Minutes, which are, of course, included in our packet, subject to any necessary corrections for typographical errors or other non-material matters. And I do believe Commissioner Skinner has an amendment.
I do, and I'm sorry, I should have led with this before you jumped in with your motion, Commissioner Broder. On this set, July 15, 2025, I just have on page 3, 2 areas where I think the full extent of my comments did not get captured. Page 3, which is page 23 of our packet, under the discussion regarding EBH's request for a permanent waiver from the letter of credit requirement. I would just ask that the legal team, and I've had discussions with Jenna, I would just ask that the legal team supplement that particular discussion to include the remainder of my comments, which discussed my concern that if we were to accept Encore's justification that they offered for the waiver, then my concern was that we would not be able to access those funds. So I just would like that added in. The other area is on page 7 of the minutes, which is page 27 of the packet. And again, the full extent of my comments didn't get included in here. We were talking about a set of regulations, 11504, that were coming up for proposed amendment. And I would ask that the legal team include my comments clarifying the reason why I thought the language was superfluous. And that's all the way down the end of the paragraph of the page, excuse me.
Okay. Any further amendments or discussion on that, Commissioner Skinner?
No, I just had those 2 requests.
All right. So procedurally, we'll incorporate those as an amendment.
I would second the amendment. Second the motion to amend.
All right. All right. So with Commissioner Broder's motion, as well as Commissioner Skinner's amendment, which was seconded by Commissioner Broder, I'll go ahead and start doing a roll call vote on this. I'm making sure I got, do I need another second?
think-
On the
Yeah, we do need a
overall
second
motion?
for Commissioner Broder's original motion.
Oh, second.
Thank you. All right. With that, Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
Commissioner Broder. Was that an aye, Commissioner Broder?
Is a yes. Yep.
And I vote yes, 5-0. All right. So, Secretary, is that it for the minutes today?
It is indeed. Thank everyone for their indulgence.
Well, I will tell you, you took me back to Morehead State University when I was on the SGA and had to learn Robert's Rules of Order. That was a good pressure test of that today. So thank you for that. And thank you as always for working on those minutes so diligently with the entire team, legal team. And we appreciate Secretary Skinner former Secretary Skinner for her additions too. All right, with that, we are going to turn it to item number 3, and we'll kick it over to the head of research and responsible gaming, Director Mark van der Linden. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Chair Maynard. Good morning, Commissioners. And I'm actually just going to head it over to our Senior Research Manager, Dr. Bonnie Andrews, to kick off these items.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. It's wonderful to be here today to introduce these studies. Section 71 of Chapter 23K of the Massachusetts General Laws directs the Massachusetts Gaming Commission to develop an annual research agenda to understand the social and economic effects of expanded gaming in the Commonwealth. Section 23 of Chapter 23N of the Massachusetts General Laws expands this research agenda to encompass understanding the social and economic effects of sports wagering. The University of Massachusetts School of Public Health and Health Sciences has been evaluating these impacts as part of the Social and Economic Impacts of Gambling in Massachusetts, or SIGMA study funded by the MGC. Today, the SIGMA team will be presenting 2 reports. The purpose of the first report that will be presented today, Sports Betting in Massachusetts 2023 Economic Impacts Report, is to catalog as accurately as possible the ways in which the Massachusetts economy has been changed by the legalization of sports betting. The second report, Current Trends in Gambling, Sports Betting, and Problem Gambling in Massachusetts 2022 through 2024, assesses changes in gambling attitudes, gambling participation, and problem gambling prevalence among monthly gamblers in the 4 most recent online panel surveys in Massachusetts, carried out between 2022 and 2024. The presenter of the first report will be Thomas Peak, Research Manager of Economic and Public Policy Research at the UMass Donahue Institute. The presenter of the second report will be Dr. Rachel Volberg, Research Professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and Principal Investigator of the SIGMA study. And I'll now turn it over to Tom Peak to present the Economic Impacts Report.
Tom, I believe we can't hear you, or I can't hear you anyways. Thank you, Dr. Andrews, by the way, for getting that up and running.
Is this better?
We can hear you now.
Super. I'm sort of hoteling in somebody else's office and I wasn't sure how it all was going to set up, but okay.
It fits with the beginning of this meeting.
Okay.
It's going to be one of those days this Thursday. I can feel it.
Yeah, well, I'm optimistic. Okay. So should I share the slides or does somebody on? Okay, I will. Let me just get that set up. How's that?
We can see it.
Okay, super. Well, thanks for everyone for having me. This is always one of my favorite projects to work on and to talk about, and it's been a real privilege being able to do this for about 10 years now. So in terms of what this research is about, Bonnie pretty much nailed it. It's about cataloging the ways in which Massachusetts economy has been changed by the legalization of sports betting. There's just one technical point here I want to make sure that we understand, which is that it's how it was changed for the legalization of sports betting. And that's relevant because sports betting was affecting Massachusetts economy prior to legalization. So there's some times where there's things that we perhaps didn't count in our economic model because they were already happening before legalization. So that's just an important thing when we're talking about economic impact models in general is, are we trying to calculate how something changed as a result of something, or are we just trying to calculate the footprint of an industry? And in this case, it's the former. So legalization of sports betting introduced 3 retail sports betting operators that are operating within the existing casino locations, as well as 9 mobile or online sports betting operators, 6 of which operated through 2023. So those are all part of the Commonwealth's gambling industry. This study covers 2023, which is the first year of sports betting legalization. If that seems like a long time ago, then just one thing I noticed that designing the data requests, getting the data, analyzing the data for this kind of study does take a while. So while I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff here, there can be a little bit of a lag. So it's 2023, but I think we have now methods in place to make it so that the turnaround time in the future could be a lot faster. I'm sure you're all familiar with just sort of the timeline of sports betting, but you know, the Expanded Gaming Act had passed in 2011. In 2018, the Supreme Court struck down the federal sports betting ban. In 2020, the House of Representatives passed the first bill proposing sports betting. In 2022, the Massachusetts Senate passed their own bill. In August 2022, the Senate and the House compromised, sent the final bill to the governor's desk, which was signed on August 10th. And retail sports books went live on January 31st of 2023, and online sports books went live on March 10th. So this study is sort of just looking at calendar year 2023 and how did things change. Again, I'm sure that the commissioners are all very familiar with this, but for the benefit of the public who are watching, there's, for sports betting, we've got various license types, 3 of them. The category 1 are the licensed, like in casino retail sports betting operations. Each casino has one. In our study of them, they are remarkably difficult to differentiate from the general operations of the casino, just because they're so heavily integrated in. Some people who work in the in-person sports wagering Cat 1 work also do other tasks in the casino, and many of the sort of sports wagering things that we find are like many of the vendors that they choose are also vendors that they hire to perform services on the non-sports wagering side of the casino. So for economic modeling purposes, we model this category 1 activity as part of the casinos. And when we say there might be times where we're saying sports betting, and what we really mean is this category 3, the online mobile operators that offer online sports wagering. These are very different in some ways from casinos. We'll get to that soon. And then there's a category 2 for race tracks and simulcast. We don't have any licenses yet for those, but we could certainly study them if it was something people were interested in. So for economic impact modeling, we have really 3 sources of data. One is casino and mobile sports betting operations. So with the help of the MGC, we were able to get data, operating data from all of these casinos in terms of sort of employment and wages, things like that. But also we were able to do sort of a qualitative study, just a survey to talk about when these firms are establishing themselves in a new state, what kinds of economic activities go on there. So we're very thankful to the MGC for getting us that access. Then we have gross gaming revenues. These were actually supplied through the MGC's website reports these with, I think, a 1-month lag. So we're able to know a lot about exactly how much was spent at the casinos in high quality data with very little lag. And then, of course, the most tricky thing that we have is the patron spending behavior. There's a lot of questions that we have about these patrons in terms of where they're located, what their spending behavior is, and really the big one is how would they have spent their money, or how do they think they would have spent their money in any case if these new forms of gambling had not been available, because that's a big part of an economic model. If we're saying what changed, we need to kind of understand, like, where would that money have otherwise flowed. So the Sigma team, and particularly the social side and Rachel's team, has a really great online panel survey that they conduct, and we are able to work with them to add some economic questions that can help us answer some of those topics. So yeah, sports betting has required some new modeling strategies. Because it's just a very different industry than casinos in a lot of ways. And the big one is sort of how people engage with these activities. When you have a casino, you have a physical location that people are going to. There's people employed at that physical location. When you have gambling that's sort of on an app, it's just a very different set of inputs and outputs, and tracking that gets more challenging. So, I referred earlier to a big part of this study was conducting some qualitative survey work of the casinos, or sorry, of the mobile sports betting operators, to help us understand what kinds of activities go into moving into a new state, because that made it easier for us to refine our data requests of them. So it's really interesting. We're going to go over some key findings really quickly. The first key finding that I would have is that mobile sports betting companies do not require the same in-state presence as a casino, which should be self-evident, but it's important because such a big part of the casino's economic impact is the sheer number of people that they employ. And if you have a sports betting app, certainly you need admin staff, you need legal staff, you need software engineers to work on that. But those people don't necessarily need to be located in Massachusetts. And in fact, what we found was that when we were looking at the average quarterly employment, it was about 12% of the employees that were located in Massachusetts. But what we really found when we looked further into that is that most of that employment existed in Massachusetts prior to the legalization of sports betting, and it wasn't a direct result of expansion into the state. In particular, there's a good deal of engineers who might work remote for these various companies, and then obviously there's one large sports betting operator that had an established physical presence in Massachusetts prior to legalization. So those are jobs that are important to those people and they're important to the Commonwealth, but they're not really jobs that we would count towards discussing economic impact of the legalization of sports betting, because those jobs were already here. We found that the number of it was tough to precisely estimate, but the number of jobs that were directly created as a result of sports betting was basically very, very, very few, to the point that it basically did not make sense to even attempt to model it. So just going to another finding, sports betting vendor spending.
Mr. Chairman,
Would this
Commissioner
be do we want to ask questions per screen, or do we want to wait till the end?
I'm fine with doing whatever the group wants to do. We typically, if there's a question that hits, I'm sure that I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Peak. Are you prepared to answer questions as we move forward?
Of course, whatever works for you.
Yeah, I think it's a very simple question.
Mhm.
You mentioned there is an operator, in Massachusetts that was relatively big. Do you happen to know that if that particular company was in any other state, would that 12% number have been lowered
Yes.
by a lot?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. I just wanted to hear it. Thank you. And sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. Feel free to chime in if you have questions. I can also answer at the end, but if there's anything, I'm prepared to answer whenever you have a question.
Thank you.
Okay. So another finding, sports betting's vendor spending is concentrated pretty heavily in white collar industries. So yeah, we were looking at when we looked at these companies and sort of asked them to report their vendor spending. We were finding about $1.7 billion of payments to vendors across the nation in 2023. And about 4% of those payments, so about $70 million, were made to Massachusetts firms. In initiating operations, sports betting operators were reporting that they were spending a good deal of money on setting up and maintaining data centers, new spending on marketing, advertising, promotion, new spending on professional and technical services, and it's particularly related to sort of legal and regulatory requirements. But yeah, a pretty small share of that was actually located in Massachusetts. I think that one of the big reasons, this is something that we found when it comes to the white collar activity with the casinos as well, was that a pretty small share of that spending is located in Massachusetts. Some people ask why, because we obviously have plenty of professional services firms and white collar firms in Massachusetts, but since these are largely national or multinational corporations, I'm speculating a little bit here, but my guess is that they already have sort of established relationships for doing a lot of this work. So they're going to the same people, whether they're dealing in Massachusetts or in another state. When we're looking at vendor spending for casinos in previous reports, a lot of the vendor spending that we saw was stuff related to sort of the physical operation of the casinos, whether that's contractors coming in, whether that's food and beverage being purchased, whether that's laundromats laundering uniforms. Like, these are the sort of things that they were spending money on. And when you don't have a physical presence, you don't need to spend any of that money. So we saw a fairly, like, the share of gambling that we saw was big enough to model, but it's a relatively small amount of money in proportion to sort of what was being spent. So let's talk a little bit about what was being spent. Sports betting is growing quickly, but just looking at it, there's a little bit more research that we want to do here before we make any really definitive claims, but just physically looking at it, it does sort of look like sports betting is at minimum eating into the growth in gambling spending that we were seeing in the casinos. Since it opened up, the sports betting has continued to grow, but casino revenues, at least in the time period that we had observed, hadn't. This report was finished a little while back, so it's possible that this could have changed a bit in the intervening months, but there does seem to be some indication that some of the money that sports betting is getting is money that would have otherwise, is that it seems to maybe be competing with the casinos for spending. And then given that casinos, or given that sports betting does have such a big kind of online presence, what we kind of expected from the start is that the biggest impacts that we would have would be the gaming revenue that's received, the taxes, assessments on that revenue, and that would be the strong positive. And then the negative that would be counterbalancing it would be sort of consumption reallocation, which is to say, we're not creating any new money by having sort of a customer-facing industry like this in Massachusetts. Instead, what's happening is that a lot of that money is people shifting their money away from something else and towards sports betting. Now, what we did find, sort of like in casinos, is that some of the spending that we were seeing was when we started doing survey work, people were reporting that they were spending money on legal sports betting that they otherwise would have spent either traveling out of state to place sports bets in states where that was legal, or in more often cases, gambling in sort of gray or black market sports betting. I'm sure that many of you, prior to the legalization of sports betting, knew somebody who had an app where they could place a sports bet, maybe from a company that was based in another country or something like that. And so some of those people have decided that still does happen, but some of those people have decided instead to bet using the legal regulated sports books that are here in Massachusetts. And that has basically meant $134 million of spending that we are now taxing, where prior those dollars were just leaving Massachusetts entirely. So that's definitely a win. On the other side, based on our panel survey research, we are estimating that about $334 million were reallocated to sports betting away from people's other prior spending habits. So that means that obviously not everything that people spend is spent in Massachusetts, but if you are going to spend $334 million less in Massachusetts on things other than sports betting, then a lot of that is directly going to come out of the revenues of Massachusetts businesses, which is going to have sort of a counterbalancing economic impact. This was also the case with casinos the whole time, but it's just relevant in a way because of the lack of a big chunk of on-site jobs and a good deal of the vendor spending. It does kind of affect things a little bit differently. So
can I interject there?
yes.
I may have missed this in the slides in the deck. Did you know how much of that was spent on entertainment type of expenditures versus other types of expenses? I.e., what I'm asking is was there a portion of folks who were just changing their entertainment from the movie theater to sports betting, for example?
Yeah, I think that is a very likely thing. Asking people about how they're spending, how they would have hypothetically spent their money if not for some sort of intervening factor is a difficult question for most people to answer already. And so we sort of have taken the modeling approach of trying to calculate a number and then using our economic impact model to make certain assumptions about how that spending works. But I think that it's if you think, I think it's quite likely that in most cases, people are probably shifting their spending away from other types of discretionary spending and towards this. I think it's more likely that someone's going to the casino less, or they're going out to the movies or to the bars less. I think that's more likely than that people are purchasing less groceries or less healthcare. But it certainly varies from person to person. We don't have a lot of great detail on that now, but it's something that obviously we'd love to know more about.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Anything else before I go to the next slide? Okay. So here is a slide that sort of shows the job growth from legalized gambling. And the big finding here is that it's very, very, very dependent on the casinos. We are estimating that in 2023, the casinos created or supported a net of 15,431 jobs, and that mobile sports betting created or supported about 118. And the big reason for that shift is the mobile sports betting just does not require the same number of people in the state. And as a result, the sort of the negative economic impacts that you see from reallocated spending are only slightly smaller than the positive economic impacts that we were able to ascribe to the mobile sports betting. So obviously with the casinos, there's also a negative economic impact, but the positive one just outweighs it in a larger way because the types of economic activity that they are engaging in sort of has some larger multipliers, and there's simply more of it. So with the casinos, it's sort of when you actually look at the various assumptions that go into the model that introduce some margin of error, the economic impact of mobile sports betting is largely a wash. It's not clear that it is responsible for a large loss in jobs, but whatever jobs we can attribute to it are mostly canceled out by what we're seeing in the consumer reallocation.
Tom, Commissioner Broder here. Quick question. I'm going to ask you, I think to state the obvious, and that is the sports betting essentially has had no effect on building trades or construction employment.
Sure. I mean, it's mostly apps. I mean, I think that when you look at the category one, there's been some building trades and construction as people built as the casinos sort of renovated their spaces to include a sports betting section.
Yeah,
it's fairly minor, but it's there. But if you don't have a physical building or a physical location, you don't really have anything to build. I mean, it's possible in some cases that maybe their demand might have helped lead to the construction of a new data center at some place, but that wasn't something we were able to clearly and definitively prove.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay. On this slide, I just want to actually make one point, which is that when we are talking about the positive impacts of mobile sports betting, most of those positive impacts relate to new state government revenue, which is then spent or sent in some cases to municipalities to spend. And so the public sector benefits from this are slightly outweighing the private sector losses that we see from losses in other industries, if that makes sense. Okay, so key finding, almost all of the legalized gambling's economic output is produced by casinos. This is basically the same thing that we're just presenting with jobs, but it also, when you're talking about economic output, which is sales, or value added, which sometimes is called gross state product, we are really seeing a similar thing. We're seeing 2% of economic output from legalized gambling is being generated by mobile sports betting. And again, where those funds, where we do see that, it's largely due to tax revenue that's being generated for the Commonwealth and then spent. So just to conclude, the results of our economic modeling indicate that the net economic impact of sports betting is slightly positive. I do think it's important to note here, though, that these results don't account for any sort of social impacts that might have what we would call like downstream economic impacts. That's something that Dr. Volberg and her team are working hard on. Just to give an example, like if problem gambling leads to an increase in bankruptcies, then that probably has some impact on the Massachusetts economy. But that is something that we need to do more research on to fully understand that relationship. And at the point that we were doing this, I don't think we even had a great idea of what is the impact of sports betting on bankruptcies. So there's some unanswered questions here about kind of downstream. What are those additional impacts of these things? And so when we say that it's basically kind of a wash, like that may or may not be something that I would stand by if I had a fuller understanding of kind of how the social and the economic sides of this are going to tie together in the long run. So that is my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tom, for that. Commissioners, any questions before we move on to the next study? Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate those insights. As always, those insights help us make our policy work, which is what makes us unique here in Massachusetts, is that we sit so close to the research. So thank you, Tom.
Thanks so much,
Chair Maynard, may I just make a comment on that last slide of the downstream? I do think that is a very good point by Tom. And I think, at least for the timing of this report, it's early days of sports wagering and assessing some of the social and economic impacts. So to Tom's point, I think it is important that we continue to monitor all of this, but especially the potential social impacts of it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, framing that. And I think it's a good segue to who's going to introduce Dr. Volberg and get that ready.
That would be me. So I just wanted to thank you so much. I just wanted to now turn it over to Dr. Rachel Volberg, research professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and principal investigator on the Sigma study, who will be presenting the current trends report. So thank you, Dr. Volberg, for joining us today.
And thank you for having me. Due to some technical difficulties that I experienced the other day, I've asked Mark to share my slide deck with you. So Mark, I'll be just asking you to advance the slides as I comment on them. So just to start, it is a pleasure to be able to be here today and present results from 4 online panel surveys that we conducted among adults in Massachusetts. I want to, before I launch into my remarks, I just want to thank my entire Sigma team, including both the folks on the social side and, as you heard from Tom, the folks on the economic and fiscal side. We have worked closely together for quite a long time, and I think the sort of interwovenness of these 2 presentations hopefully will demonstrate the value of that approach. Next slide. So this is just a quick overview of the talk I'm going to give today. I'm going to focus first on a little bit on the methods that we use to conduct these panel surveys. then talk about attitudes, gambling behavior, gambling problems and harms, and then just a little bit of discussion and recommendation. So this presentation is going to be similar to one that I gave a year ago, which looked also at some of the online panels, but in that case, it was the 2014, 2022, and 2023 online panel surveys. And today I'm going to be sharing information that starts in 2022, just prior to sports betting becoming operational, and goes through 2024. Next slide. So the SIGMA team has been working for some time to figure out how best to monitor changes in gambling participation and problem gambling prevalence in Massachusetts on a regular basis, given the high cost and slow turnaround time of most population surveys. Online panel surveys consist of groups of people recruited to participate in online surveys in return for compensation. Sociodemographic and behavioral information is collected from the panel members so that samples can be stratified to match the characteristics of the jurisdiction where the survey is being conducted. But the main limitation of online panels is that these people are self-selected. They choose to enroll in these panels. And while the companies that manage these panels generally stratify their samples to be demographically representative, there are significant behavioral biases that typically remain and can't be corrected by this stratification or by demographic weighting. So while online panel surveys cannot be used to establish accurate gambling and problem gambling prevalence rates, they hold considerable value as a means to identify the direction of changes in gambling-related attitudes, behaviors, and harm on a regular basis. These panel surveys are a time and cost-effective way of providing regulators and policymakers with crucial information to target gambling harm mitigation strategies. And what I like to say is the approach takes advantage of a bug in the nature of online panels and turns it into a feature. Next slide. So we have done 5 online panel surveys in Massachusetts since 2013 as part of the SIGMA study. The baseline online panel survey was fielded in 2013 and 2014, simultaneously with the baseline general population survey. And similarly, the follow-up online panel survey was fielded in 2022, simultaneous with the follow-up general population survey. The third online panel survey was fielded a year later in 2023, and 2 surveys were fielded in 2024, one in the spring and one in the fall. The second 2024 survey in the fall was fielded to provide the Gaming Commission with up-to-date surveillance information in the event that our team is unsuccessful in competing for the reprocurement of the project. We wanted to make sure that you guys had some up-to-date information in case we had to disappear. Next slide. This slide and the next one present information about how the study was conducted. Just to make everyone aware, population surveys typically are described to potential respondents as surveys about health and recreation, because you don't want to over-recruit gamblers when they know that the survey is about something they're interested in. The online panel surveys were described to potential respondents as being about gambling, precisely because we wanted to over-recruit gamblers. And all of the surveys were stratified by gender and age, but with no limitation by region. And you can see that we got an oversample of young adults aged 18 to 34 in each of the surveys that was done. Next slide. We focused our analysis in this report on the subset of panelists who had gambled monthly or more often in the past year, after eliminating a small number of panelists in the 2023 and 24 surveys who had the same IP address as panelists in the prior survey. And that was done for statistical reasons. And the focus on monthly gamblers is intended to highlight changes in the behavior and experience of the most heavily involved gamblers in the panels. Next slide. And now to some results. The first topic focuses on attitudes towards gambling among monthly gamblers in the online panels. Online panelists were asked several questions about their views of gambling, and I'm going to share two of these with you. So, yep. Are we? Sorry. Yes, benefits and harms. Okay, good. So this graph presents responses to a question about the overall benefits and harms of gambling in Massachusetts and shows that there was an increase in the proportion of monthly gamblers who felt that the harms of gambling outweighed the benefits. So you can see the red part of the bar refers to the harm outweighing the benefits. So as you're aware, this is the period when legalized sports betting became operational in Massachusetts. So it's interesting to see how gamblers' attitudes have changed. Next slide. This graph presents responses to a question about the overall availability of gambling in Massachusetts and shows that monthly gamblers in 2023 and 24 were more likely than those in 2022 to believe that gambling was too widely available in Massachusetts and significantly less likely to believe that gambling was not available enough. Next. So now let's look at some of the gambling behavior of the monthly gamblers in the online panels. Next. All of the participants were provided with a description of what we meant by gambling at the beginning of this particular section of the survey or the questionnaire, because we wanted everyone to sort of be on the same page as far as what we were about to ask them. They were asked questions about 13 different gambling activities, and for each activity, we assessed past year participation, frequency of past year participation, and how much they spent in a typical month on each of these types of gambling. Next. This graph presents past year gambling participation rates for specific types of gambling among monthly gamblers in the online panels. And I apologize, I realize it's a little hard to read, but when I put it into a table, it was even harder to read. So we turned it into a graph. The most common pattern in past year participation in specific types of gambling among monthly gamblers was higher participation in 2023 compared to 2022, and lower participation in 2024 compared to 2023, although with rates still higher than in 2022. It was interesting to observe higher rates of participation in most types of gambling among monthly gamblers in 2023 compared with 2022, especially if we consider some of the work that we've done looking at the general population. But we took these findings to suggest that the lingering impact of the pandemic on gambling behavior among monthly gamblers in Massachusetts may have diminished. It's unclear why past year participation rates for most types of gambling remained higher in 2024 compared to 22, but it's possible that this reflects a further adjustment of gambling behavior to current social and economic conditions, with the caveat that there may be other non-behavioral explanations for differences, including such things as changes in sample composition. Next. So this slide presents some information about the demographics of the monthly gamblers in our online panel surveys. Frankly, this information is not included in the report, but we ran these analyses after Mark Vanderlinden asked about changes in the demographics among monthly gamblers across the surveys. And I felt it was important, since he asked the question, to run the analysis and then to present the results. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through these differences in detail. Certainly happy to answer questions about the demographics after my presentation. But as an overall summary, there were no significant changes or differences by gender, and only one difference in terms of age amongst the monthly gamblers. There were some significant differences in ethnicity, education, and household income. Next. In addition to gambling participation, it's helpful to consider gambling intensity. And gambling intensity includes the number of gambling formats engaged with in the past year and the maximum frequency of gambling, meaning the number of days gambled in the past year. And the top of this table shows that the mean number of gambling formats was higher in 2023 compared to 2022 and lower in the spring of 24 compared to 23, although again, still higher than 2022 and rising again in the fall of 24. Similarly, the number of days gambled in the past year rose from 2022 to 23 and then remained steady through the fall of 24. And finally, mean gambling expenditures rose from 2022 to 2023 and did not change significantly between 2023 and the fall of 2024. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that these are not individuals that we are following over time. This is not a cohort study. These are separate cross-sectional samples of monthly gamblers. I just want to make sure everyone understands that. Next slide. So turning now to sports betting among the monthly gamblers in the online panels. Next. This table shows that in 2022, 61% of monthly gamblers in the panel had not gambled on sports in the past year, while 32% had gambled on sports at least monthly or weekly in the past year. In 2023, there was a decline in the proportion of monthly gamblers who had not gambled on sports, and a rise in the proportion of monthly gamblers who had gambled on sports at least monthly or weekly. In 2024, the proportion of monthly gamblers who had not gambled on sports remained steady at about 50%, while the proportion of those who had gambled at least monthly on sports declined to 41.5% in spring of 24 and rose slightly to 46% in the fall of 24. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say we think all of these changes were likely associated with the launch of legal sports betting operations in Massachusetts between January and March of 2023. Next slide. So this slide presents information about the demographics of sports bettors among monthly gamblers in our online panel surveys. Again, thanks to Mark Vanderlinden for getting me to run these analyses. As with the monthly gamblers, I'm not going to describe these differences in detail in the interest of time, but I'm happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation. Just to summarize, there were no significant differences by gender or age. There were some differences in ethnicity, education, employment, and household income. Next slide. I realize I'm tearing through these pretty quickly, but yeah, I'll try and slow down. So to obtain a more nuanced picture of the impacts of the introduction of sports betting in Massachusetts, we divided the types of sports betting that people told us they had done into legal and illegal activities. And just to make sure everybody understands, we did not ask people, have you gambled on sports illegally? We asked them these specific activities, and then we divided them up into legal and illegal categories. So those shaded in gray are legal sports betting, including office sports pools and social betting, placing bets with a legal land-based sports book outside of Massachusetts, placing bets with a legal sports book within Massachusetts, and placing bets with an online sports book in Massachusetts. And the illegal forms of sports betting included placing bets with an illegal land-based bookmaker in Massachusetts, or on betting on sports events with an online sports book outside of Massachusetts, as you heard Tom discuss a little while ago. Next. So to summarize this table, there was no change in the proportion of monthly gamblers in the online panels who had engaged in any illegal sports betting between 22 and 24. But there was a decrease in the proportion of monthly gamblers who engaged only in illegal sports betting. So you can see it went from 13.5% in 2022 down to 7.3% in spring of 2024, and then nudged up a little to 8.3% in the fall of 2024. There was also no change in the amount of sports betting leakage, as we call it, which means spending on sports betting operators outside of Massachusetts. And then finally, in response to a question in the 23 and 24 surveys, approximately half of the monthly gamblers indicated that if Massachusetts had not legalized sports betting, they would have gambled on sports in other jurisdictions or online with an out-of-state operator, which you heard Tom comment on in greater detail as well. So taken together, the data suggests that there has been some recapture of illegal sports betting revenues in Massachusetts. This is evidenced by the significant rise in the proportion of monthly gamblers who gambled at a legal land-based sports book in Massachusetts, and in the proportion of monthly gamblers who gambled with an online sports book in Massachusetts. It's further evidenced by the significant decline in the proportion of monthly gamblers who only placed bets with an illegal land-based bookmaker in Massachusetts. Next. Okay, our final focus today is on gambling problems and gambling harms among monthly gamblers in the online panels. Next. This slide shows you the typology that we use based on the 14-item PPGM, or problem and pathological gambling measure, which we've been using in Massachusetts since the beginning of the SIGMA study. Unlike most other problem gambling measures, the PPGM explicitly requires evidence of both impaired control and significant negative consequences to be classified as a problem gambler. Relative to other instruments, the PPGM varies less as a function of gender, age, and ethnicity, and is better suited to capture the multidimensional nature of problem gambling. But despite its better performance in the assessment of problem gambling, other categories of the PPGM have lacked rigor, and this is particularly true of the at-risk gambler category. Because while the label at risk implies the possibility of developing more serious problems, endorsing low levels of symptoms may also be a wake-up call for people to reduce their gambling involvement. So we don't really know which way those folks who are in the at-risk category are actually moving. Next slide. So I'm a reluctant scholar of measurement theory, but since 2023, Rob Williams and I have worked to identify a better way to discriminate between types of at-risk gamblers, meaning those less or more likely to develop more serious gambling problems. Similarly, for problem gamblers, those more or less likely to experience chronic gambling problems. The resulting instrument includes the original 14 items that make up the PPGM and one new item measuring perception of gambling problems, and we have renamed it the problem gambling measure. So not too different, but a little easier to say. The PGM allows for distinctions between moderate at-risk gambling, where only 13% of the people classified in this way will be classified as problem gamblers 1 year later, and high or very high at-risk gambling, where 28% and 43% of people classified in this way, respectively, will be classified as problem gamblers 1 year later. The study also identified that a score of 7 or higher on the PGM was predictive of continuing problem gambling 1 year later. So chronicity is something that we're also interested in because chronic gambling problems have far more serious and severe consequences. So this slide just presents the PGM typology and the criteria required for classification. But I will say that the next slide is the money slide. Next slide. Here we go. So information about the prevalence of recreational, at-risk, and problem gambling among monthly gamblers in the online panels is presented here. The results from 2022 and 23 are based on the PPGM, while the results from the 2024 surveys are based on the PGM. The table shows that the prevalence of problem gambling among monthly gamblers rose significantly between 2022 and 2023, from 20.9% to 25.6%, and rose significantly again in the fall of 2024 compared to 2022. And I just want to mention that the decline in recreational gambling in the 2024 surveys compared to the earlier ones in 22 and 23 is primarily due to the wider net cast by the PGM for moderate at-risk gambling. Next. And here we are with another demographic slide, thanks to Mark Vanderlinden. This slide presents information about the demographics of problem gamblers in our online panel surveys. As with the monthly gamblers and sports bettors, I'm not going to describe these differences in detail. Again, there were no significant differences by gender or age. There were some differences by ethnicity, education, employment, and household income. I do want to say that these data here are pretty noisy, meaning they go up and down a lot because of the small size of some of the groups, for example, those based on household income. Next slide. Until recently, gambling harms were identified solely with the clinical entity of problem gambling. The assumption underlying this approach was that gambling harm could be minimized by treating people with gambling problems or by preventing people from progressing to that state. In the past decade, however, a broader view of the impacts of gambling has emerged internationally with a shift in focus from problem gambling to gambling-related harm. This table presents information about the proportion of monthly gamblers in the online panels who experienced different types of gambling-related harm. There was a significant rise between 2022 and 23, and another significant rise between 2023 and the spring of 24 in the proportion of panelists endorsing family or relationship harms as a result of their gambling. Overall, rates of financial harm, health harm, family or relationship harm, and work or school harms among monthly gamblers in the online panels were significantly higher in the fall of 2024 compared to 2022. Next slide. So I guess this slide probably should be labeled summary rather than discussion. But just to reiterate that online panels are not representative of the general population, but they do provide important information about the direction of changes among regular monthly gamblers. So as you've heard, attitudes about gambling became more negative between 2022 and 24. Participation in specific types of gambling was most likely to rise from 2022 to 23 and then stabilize. Similarly, with gambling intensity, the proportion of monthly gamblers betting weekly on sports rose between 2022 and 23 and remained high in 2024. There appears to have been some recapture of illegal sports betting expenditures between 2022 and 2024, but problem gambling prevalence among monthly gamblers in these online panels rose significantly between 2022 and 23 and remained higher in 2024 compared to 2022. Rates of gambling harm in 4 of the 6 domains that we assess were higher in 2024 compared to 2022. And last slide. This slide presents our recommendations based on the findings from the online panel surveys that we have done in Massachusetts to date. We are recommending that given rising rates of sports betting frequency, that education and harm reduction strategies targeting sports bettors are warranted. And we believe there's a need for an expansion of responsible gambling tools to support individuals experiencing financial harms and or family or relationship harms. So this is the second of what we hope will be a series of brief reports on gambling attitudes, behavior, problems, and harm among monthly gamblers in online panels in Massachusetts. I believe these reports will serve as an important early warning system to allow for timely efforts at gambling harm minimization and mitigation in the Commonwealth. And I look forward to answering your questions. And I believe I have a thank you slide at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Volberg. Commissioners, Dr. Volberg has offered to answer any questions about any of the slides she covered. Commissioner Broder, it looks like your mute is off.
First out of the queue, outstanding. I will try to be brief. First question, I think of three is, how do folks identify themselves as folks participating in the illegal market? By that, I mean, do you ask them that question, or do you ask them about behaviors that you then know are in the, currently illegal in Massachusetts?
Yes, it's the latter. We don't ask people to tell us whether they're doing something illegally. We ask them.
Right. That would skew the data, right?
Yes, it's not a good way to ask a survey question.
And second question would be, we didn't really touch the lottery in this study. Is that fair to say?
Sorry?
We didn't, or y'all didn't ask about the lottery as part of this exploration?
Indeed, we did. We asked about the large jackpot lottery, the multi-state. We asked about the Keno game, and we asked about scratch tickets.
Awesome. That's obviously a big part of the mix here in Massachusetts. And I'm going to ask you to kind of perhaps make a prediction, which is not fair because we'll be testing, and I'm asking you about an untested proposition. And that is, as you know, there were some iGaming proposals before the Massachusetts legislature that would expand this kind of, right, this kind of gaming. Would it be your prediction that this would exacerbate the issues that you've identified as sports gaming has grown as an online or non-brick and mortar activity?
Yeah, I don't think I even have to hedge my bets with this one, to use a poor analogy. But there is very good evidence from other parts of the world, Europe and Australia in particular, that introducing online casino games into a jurisdiction definitely leads to increases in gambling problems.
That's all I have for you. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
And Commissioner Broder, just as teeing it up, we do have a study coming your way looking at what the potential social impacts of legalized iGaming would be if legalized in the Commonwealth. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. Thank you for that follow-up, Director Vanderlinden. Any other questions for Dr. Volberg? I'll making sure no one on the phone. I'll reiterate what I said earlier, Dr. Volberg. We appreciate it. What's unique about our jurisdiction is that we are able to make decisions within our statutory authority based upon research, and the legislature and the governor ensured that this research would happen when they passed the Expanded Gaming Act, and it's been helpful. And everywhere we go and every other jurisdiction we talk to, nationally and internationally, supports what we're doing here and the work that you're doing and how we're using it. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Chair Maynard. If I can just, one closing remark. When I came before the commission in 2013, after my team was awarded the Sigma project, I told the commissioners at that time that it was the most outstanding day of my entire career as a gambling researcher. And I have to say that the intervening 12 years, we've been able to produce what I believe to be a really, really important body of work. And I commend the Massachusetts legislature and all of the commissioners that have served on the commission for your tremendous support and enthusiasm about the work. It really makes it a pleasure to come to work every day.
Thank you, Dr. Goldberg. All right, Director Van der Linden, anything to add?
You know, I always do. I apologize. It's really important to do this type of research when you introduce a new form of gambling in any jurisdiction, to both establish a baseline in order to see where things are going in the future, but also these types of monitoring of gambling behavior is very important. And as Dr. Goldberg said, it does inform policy and practice and where we direct resources. So a huge thank you to Dr. Goldberg and the team. Having this early insight is really helpful.
All right. Well, with that, thank you again, Dr. Goldberg. Thank you to the Sigma team. Thank you to UMass. Thank you, Dr. Andrews. I wasn't going to forget you. And of course, Director Van der Linden. We're going to move on to item number 4. And for that, we have to kick it over to the Chief of Sports Wagering, Carrie Teresi.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I will turn it right over to Compliance and Operations Manager Stefan, who will handle the Fanatics House rules for us today.
Thanks, Carrie. Good morning, Commissioners. We do have one house rule revision for your review today, and it comes from Fanatics Betting and Gaming and begins on page 181 of your packet. The revision today is more of a cleanup to their most recently approved house rules. You may recall during the July 1st public meeting, Fanatics updated language to their teasers, where teaser odds will now be based on the odds of each individual pick within that teaser rather than a fixed payout chart. This revision today is just additional cleanup Fanatics identified with regards to that language. So within the memo, you can see the red line Fanatics is removing the language related to fixed odds, which is no longer applicable to how they price their teasers. And then moving down to the next page, they've cleaned up the language for teasers if a leg is void or settle as a push. The teaser would be recalculated based on the odds that were offered when the wager was placed. This is certainly beneficial to the customer as they still have a chance at winning their wager instead of having the whole teaser void. And that was it for this one. That concludes our revision. I do see we are joined again by Fanatics State Compliance Analyst Chris Mackey to help answer any specific questions you may have for Fanatics. However, we have no issues with this change and would recommend the approval of these house rules today. Sure.
Thank you, Andrew. Commissioners, questions, comments about these proposed changes? Do we have a motion? I'm giving everyone a second to look at the rules again to make sure they don't have any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I
Hill.
move that the commission approve the update to Fanatics House rules as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Andrew. Anything else, Chief Teresi?
That is all from sports wagering today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioners, do we want a short break or continue on with Justin and legal and then do a break?
Let's keep moving forward, Mr. Chairman.
Got it. All right. With that, we're going to turn it to item number 5 and interim general counsel, Justin Stempeck. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. The legal team is here. Most of us are actually presenting today. So on a couple different sets of regulations, it's always nice when we have a team effort coming together. So I will take the baton first to review for you some changes we're proposing to 205 CMR 23907. These are a proposed change to our audit regulations as they pertain to our sports wagering operators. I reviewed these with our CFAO, Derek Lennon, and with our Chief of Sports Wagering, Carrie Teresi. The proposed change would alter the regulation to provide additional discretion to the Commission to audit on an annual basis the operators, and as determined to be necessary. It sort of clarifies what was the previously existing language so that we could pick and choose the aspects of audit we would like to do up to and including a full-scale audit, but it makes that discretion clearer by way of regulatory language. I'll also, turn this to Chief Teresi or Chief Lennon if they want to offer any additional context concerning what we're currently doing with respect to audits and why this is a relevant change at the present time.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah, I can add, oh, sorry about that. I could add just a little bit of context if it's helpful. This regulation was really carried over from the casino side, where of course there are 3 casinos. On the sports wagering side, we have many more operators, so it is a bit more difficult to sort of conduct a full audit of all of them every year, would require additional budgeting, all those sorts of things. So the way the regulation is written right now, it's not entirely clear that the Commission sort of has discretion to create audits each year, identify exactly what areas you'd like to audit each year and which operators. So this would just put that discretion in so that we could address it each year, how you'd like the audit to look.
All right. Questions, comments, Commissioner Broder? I see your mute is off.
I have a motion if there's no further discussion.
I see Commissioner Hill's mute is off also.
I just wanted to add to the staff that this makes sense to me. And I think it's something that has worked well under 23K. And I say 23K, meaning the work that you've done with the 3 casinos. And moving that over to sports wagering, I think is appropriate and probably the right thing to do. So I would be in total support of the proposed change that's been put forth before us today.
Any other comments? I'll add that giving discretion makes sense to me, and giving a little bit of latitude and the Commission deciding how and when and what it wants to do with which operators. Totally sensical to this Commissioner. Any other comments, questions?
I would agree, Mr. Chairman, the opportunity to drill down into particular areas of need, that our staff or commissioners identify, just, to be able to prioritize that makes a lot of sense.
So, Commissioner Broder, do you still have that motion?
I do. Mr. Chairman, I move that the Commission approve the small business impact statement and the draft of 205 CMR 239.07 included in the Commissioner's packet and discussed here today. And further, that the staff be authorized to take the steps necessary to file the required documentation with the Secretary of the Commonwealth to begin the regulation promulgation process.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. All right. Thank you for that one. Back to you, Councilor Stempeck.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. I'll turn it over to Associate General Counsel Judy Young to present on some racing regulations.
Good morning, Counselor.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Sorry, I had a little trouble with the mute button there. But I have the next set of regulations for you today, starting on page 188 of your meeting packets. The legal team, in conjunction with the Racing Division, is recommending a minor change to two sections of 205 CMR 3.00, specifically subsections 3.11 and 3.14. We are proposing to remove the word obnoxious from the regulation. There's a twofold benefit to this approach. The first being that it creates parity between the Commonwealth and other jurisdictions that utilize other standards to measure conduct, specifically the standard of unbecoming. And it also adds more clarity to our regulations by removing a standard of behavior that could be viewed as more archaic, subjective, and traditional. Across the United States, obnoxious is kind of rarely utilized these days. And so we're just kind of bringing our own regulation into compliance with others that have made such changes across the country. I will also note in terms of timing that this regulation, because regulations for horse racing are required to go to the legislature for approximately 60 days after making their way through the promulgation process, these changes would not take effect until after the close of the current 2025 racing season. So if the commission did vote for approval, these regs would take effect in late November or early December and would be utilized for the 2026 racing season. So with that, I will pause here and offer any answers to questions you might have.
Thank you, Counselor. I will note that when I was briefed on the obnoxious reg, I asked which one. All right, Commissioner Hill.
Yes, once again, talking with our friends in the Racing Division and Judy doing a great job on the proposal that's before us. I have no problem with this change and would be willing to make a motion, but I just want to make sure my other fellow commissioners don't have anything to say first.
Commissioners, anything to add?
With that, Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve the small businesses impact statement and the drafts of 205 CMR 3.11 and 205 CMR 3.14 included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today, and further that the staff be authorized to take steps necessary to file the required documentation with the legislature and Secretary of the Commonwealth to begin the regulation promulgation process.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill and Commissioner Skinner. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll turn it over to Staff Attorney Borelli to bring it home.
Thank you. Hi, Autumn.
Hi, good morning. I'm presenting some proposed amendments to 205 CMR 248, Section 12. That section of the regulations specifically governs or regulates the withdrawal processes for funds from a sports wagering account. Currently, it could take as many as 5 days to withdraw funds via check for a sports wagering account, and the amendment to the regulation just ensures that those funds will be held in place and be available for the withdrawal as the patron requests them. It will solely be holding the funds requested for withdrawal. It won't affect any of the other funds in the account or affect the addition of additional funds being deposited. I spoke with both Mark from Responsible Gaming, and he says that it was the best process to respect the patrons' withdrawals requests and not allow them to be able to spend money that they had requested to be withdrawn. And I spoke with Director Teresi in sports wagering and was told that she did not anticipate any implementation issues, but we will also have the hearing for the operators to provide any input.
All right. Commissioners, any questions for Autumn?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
just go ahead, Commissioner Skinner, sorry.
no, Commissioner Howard is just offering to make the motion. Go right ahead.
Just a quick clarification. So this is the beginning of the change of this process. Yep, okay.
Yes, this is for initial promulgation.
Yep, thank you.
And as always, we invite any stakeholders, patrons, licensees, so forth and so on, to comment during that period. That's why it exists. So, Commissioner Skinner.
I move that the commission approve the small business impact statement and the draft of 205 CMR 248.12 included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today. And further, that staff be authorized to take the steps necessary to file the required documentation with the Secretary of the Commonwealth to begin the regulation promulgation process.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yep, yes, excuse me.
And I vote yes, 5-0. I would interpret a yelp as a yes, Commissioner Broder. All right. So thank you, Autumn, for that. Thank you, Judy, and thank you, Councilor Stimpick, as well as Carrie for her explanation. Anything else for Team Legal?
That's everything the legal came today, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to turn it. Do we need a quick? I may need a quick 5 minutes before we turn it to Chief Delaney. Sorry to ice the kicker, Chief Delaney, but
no worries.
All right, so let's try to get back in 5 minutes or so. All right. Okay, I think we probably have everyone. This is a reconvening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission meeting. I'm Jordan Maynard. I'm serving as chair. We're holding this meeting virtually, so we will do a roll call. Good morning still, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
I am here.
Good morning, Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning.
And finally, good morning, Commissioner Broder.
I am still here, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we didn't lose anyone. We left on item number 6, which goes to Chief Delaney.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So we have a few reallocations of Community Mitigation Fund grant monies that we want to discuss today. I think in your packet, the memos got printed in the reverse order of the way they were on the agenda, but I guess I'll follow the agenda version. So the first one was the Springfield Parking Authority grant. This one has a little bit of a convoluted history, so bear with me for a minute while I kind of walk you through what has happened with this. This grant actually goes back to 2020, and initially it was for improvements to what was known as the city stage property to allow its use by the Springfield Public Access Television Station. And as they tried to do that project through the pandemic and all, prices went up, and it was just determined that it wasn't going to be feasible to build out that space. It wasn't, Focus couldn't afford it, and the city couldn't afford it. So in the meantime, another entity came out, a group called Hope for Youth and Families, and they have purchased this city stage property from the city and have renovated it into a youth and arts center. So it's a really exciting opportunity for the city, but they did still want to try to avail themselves of this grant to do some work on the parking garage that this youth and arts center is located in. So what they want to do is some waterproofing and leak repair and lighting upgrades in the parking garage to ensure that they don't negatively impact on this new venue that has gone in there. You know, one of the things about one of the impacts of the casino was that the parking authority lost a lot of revenue due to MGM having a free parking garage. So this will help them recapture some of that lost revenue, since the city stage property is right within the Columbus Center parking garage. You know, people will tend to use that rather than parking over at MGM and walking over. So basically, although the project is different, they're both for capital improvements to the same place, same space. So after we looked at it, the city did put together a whole new application on this, since it really is a different project from what they had proposed. So they're going to be spending about $2.5 million on this garage, and this only makes up 300,000 of that. So basically, since it's doing capital improvements and it's affecting that city stage property, we felt it was appropriate to make that, to allow this use instead of the previous use. I don't know if that makes any sense to it's kind of convoluted, so.
I followed you.
No, I understand it totally,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
So we are recommending doing that.
Commissioners, questions for Chief Delaney?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Hill.
I assume we'll do these one at a time. So with that said, I move that the commission approve a modification of the FY 2020 Community Mitigation Fund grant to the city of Springfield by authorizing the reallocation of $300,000 toward funding for capital improvement costs associated with the Columbus Center parking garage as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
and Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. So congratulations to the city of Springfield for being able to use that money in the way that they best see fit for their community to mitigate that impact.
And we really wanted to get it off the books. Okay, so the next one up is Saugus. Saugus was awarded $187,000 back in 2022 to do some purchase and installation of solar lights along the Northern Strand Community Trail, which we thought was a really neat project at the time. That project got delayed a bit. It ran into some lead time issues on the lighting fixtures, and the person who was managing the project left. And so there were various delays. And when they got back to the project more recently, they realized that in order to provide the lighting that was necessary, these poles would have to be very tall, which would now have some impacts, negative impacts on abutting properties and homes and so on. So the city felt they didn't really want to move ahead with that and have those issues. So what they wanted to do, this was actually a public safety project. And in keeping with that, they're proposing to change that to putting crosswalk beacons where the Northern Strand crosses main roads. I'm sure you've seen these all over the place, the flashing lights that are automatically triggered when someone comes up to them. So they want to do that, retrofit several of intersections and do 2 new ones along the Northern Strand. Total estimate of the project is $107,400. So it doesn't use up all of that $187,000. We think that this is a reasonable request, that that these flashing beacons are a good safety feature for bike paths and so on. So we're recommending doing that. And at this point, we're recommending just doing the full $187,000 towards it in case there's any overruns or anything like that. And obviously, if they don't use all of that money, they could either come back and try to repurpose it for something else, or we would ultimately take that back if it was unspent.
Mr. Chairman. Oh,
yes.
Joe or Derek, is that best practice? I mean, we're talking about an $80,000 cushion, if you will. Does that make sense if we don't anticipate the cost to exceed about $107,000? I mean, just in terms of the reasonableness of that full amount of $80,000, as opposed to say 10 or 20 even.
Well, I think the only thing that we don't give them the money up front on these. These are all based on reimbursements. So this just accounts for the full amount of money. If they have something else that they want to try to do with it over and above that, they can ask to repurpose it. I think it was just basically a matter of convenience. We wouldn't give them the money up front. It's only for reimbursement. So if they spend a little bit more than the 107, we'll give them that. And then the remainder would either come back to the fund or they would repurpose it for something else.
That's fair. Yeah, that makes sense to me, because if we're approving the full amount, then really the only thing on the table, should they come back to us, is the purpose for which they will now, then spend the money if it's not the original purpose. So as opposed to having to ask for additional monies. So I'm good with that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner, thank you, Commissioner Skinner, for pointing that out, and a great question. Commissioner Hill.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, to Commissioner Skinner, that was an excellent question, and I can tell you, and I'm sure Commissioner Broder can as a former mayor, but right now, it's been very interesting because the construction cost we've been seeing locally, and I'll speak to Ipswich, and I'll also speak to some things I've seen in the State House News Service, regarding construction projects. Usually they used to come in like $5,000 or $10,000 over, from what the RFP, especially because of a delay. But some of these projects now are coming in like 40, 50, and $60,000 above and beyond what had been anticipated. So I had similar concerns as to what you have brought up, but the more I thought about it, we don't need them to come back another time to ask for those funds when they've already been allocated. And if they don't use it, it comes back to us anyways. So I felt very comfortable after seeing what I'm seeing locally, that this is a request that we could move forward on and feel comfortable about.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hill, for your insight.
Yeah,
Mr.
thank you.
Chairman,
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
I move that the commission approve a modification of the FY 2022 Community Mitigation Fund grant to the town of Saugus by authorizing the reallocation of $187,000 toward funding for public safety costs associated with crosswalk beacons along the Northern Strand Community Trail as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
Commissioner Broder,
Yes.
and I vote yes, 5-0. Congratulations.
Okay, so the last one that we have today is actually a grant that you folks just approved. It's the Attorney General grant for fiscal year 2026. This one is all on me. We received the original grant ask was for $259,800. We're looking, and that is what the commission approved. And we're looking to increase that to $280,400. And this has to do with the indirect billing rates that the AG's office is charged. And I'm not going to pretend that I really even understand that. So I've asked Derek Lennon to be here if you have questions about that particular issue. But as it was explained to us by Derek, that's appropriate. This is what happens all the time. And this request came back into us towards the end of April while I was in the midst of writing up everything for presentation to the commission, and we should have increased that dollar amount back then, but didn't. So we're recommending that increase from $259,800 to $280,400. And you know, if you have questions about the indirect rates and why they're higher than others, Derek's here to answer those questions.
Thank you, Chief Delaney. Any questions for Chief Delaney or Derek? I'm just reminded of the old adage, a mistake is an event and not a person. So everyone makes them.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
can you
Hill.
just give me like 30 seconds to just go over this one more time in my head before I vote?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear, Joe and Derek, with the federal part of this, and I just wanted to read the memo one more time before.
Yeah, and I think the
Go
gist
ahead.
of it really is that they wouldn't be able to do all of the things that they want to do with these funds if we don't give them the additional money. They would have to reduce their scope of work to fit within those dollars.
Understood. Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve a modification of the FY 2026 Community Mitigation Fund grant to the Attorney General's office by authorizing an increase in the grant amount from $259,800 to a total of $280,400 for funding for indirect costs associated with the federal grant administrative costs as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner and Commissioner Hill. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. And happy to help support the work of the Massachusetts Attorney General's office.
And that is all we have for you today.
Thank you, Chief Delaney. Thank you, Mary. We appreciate it, everything that you do. If the commissioners will humor me, I'll go out of order since we have an executive session for minutes and go to item number 8, and that's commissioner updates. I'll start by melding the conversation we just had, which is ED Serpa, Commissioner Broder, and myself had an opportunity to go to Revere and see the most amazing sandcastles I've ever seen. And this commission supported some grant funds being moved to help pay for some public safety around that event. And so it's always great, and we've all said it. I've heard all 5 of us say it at different events. It's always amazing to see how these dollars are spent. The communities are exponentially more creative than I could ever be. And so it's amazing to see how they do that. It was just a cool event. A lot of fun. With that said, any commissioner updates? All right. Any other business that we didn't anticipate? Okay. With that said, we're going to go back to item number 7. I'm going to have to read some language in. The commission anticipates that it will meet in executive session to review minutes from previous executive sessions, as their discussion at an open meeting may frustrate the intended purpose for which the executive session was convened, pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A4 and 7, and Chapter 4, Sections 726N. That's September 18th, 2023. And General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and Chapter 4, Section 2726N, which is February 7th, 2024. I'm going to read that last section one more time, if you'll humor me. That's General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and Chapter 4, Section 726N, which was February 7th, 2024.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Secretary Broder.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's 5-0. The meeting will end in executive session after those minutes are discussed. And with that, everyone enjoy your Thursday and your last day of July.
Here.